That's where black basketball.
Yep, absolutely. Exactly. I wouldn't play
He gives his nephew help out.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Sadie Thayer. I'm the director here. So it's my pleasure to welcome you all and to introduce tonight's presenter. So we have Kelsey Doncaster, who will be presenting, as you can tell, the topic at hand. But a little bit about Kelsey before he starts his presentation. He's a fifth-generation Washingtonian whose family dates back to territorial days and is very entwined with our state's history. Kelsey holds a Master of Science in Resource Management from Central Washington University, a Bachelor of Arts in History, and a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Painting from the University of Washington. His current position as historian for the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation he has held it since 2008, and it involves the evaluation, documentation, management and National Register of Historic Places listing of historic resources of the agency per the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966 in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and western Montana. He discovered and is working to preserve the United States Reclamation Service barn, or the last one in the nation, and that was built in 1912. He has written historic American engineer records that are on file with the Library of Congress, and in 2015 he lectured on the construction of the Arrow Rock Dam in Idaho, which was the tallest concrete arch dam in the world when built, and it recently celebrated its 100th anniversary. Outside of reclamation, his historic preservation work includes a variety of experiences. He participated in restoration and preservation with the Pacific Northwest Preservation Field School in 2006 at the North Cascades National Park in Washington, and in 2007 at Hayburn State Park in Idaho. He has listed 2 unique barns on the Washington Barn Heritage Register that are examples of the Yakima Valley, Yakima Valley's abundant agriculture, a circa 1918 hop kiln, and a circa 1916 Apple Ranch packing house. He has composed a primer of architecture for the city of Yakima, and then Historic Preservation Commission, and has lectured, written articles, and consulted on Pacific Northwest fruit industry, architecture, and local history. He is an avid collector, lecturer, and historian of Pacific Northwest fruit box labels for over 25 years. He has, and most recently was a member of the Board of Directors from 2011 to 2017 for the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation. Please join me in welcoming Kelsey Doncaster.
Thank you, everyone, for coming up. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, good. So, I am really happy to give this presentation. I want you all to know that this is your history. There'll be some names here I may not pronounce correctly. Please correct me, because there's different individuals that will be shown in here, and some of the geographical names of this area. This is something new for me to find these photos, and I don't know all the history, but I've got little snippets, and I hope that tonight some people, thank you, there we go. Hope that some people tonight will see someone they know. Maybe it's a relative or a father or somebody that they grew up with as a kid. This is a real unique collection. I mentioned in the title, we called it The Lost Photographs of Reclamation's Kittitas Division. I know the positive aspects of public relations and PR, and how do we make this be something that's somewhat sensational. And it is actually, they were something that was lost. When I came to work for Reclamation as an intern 12 years ago, I discovered within the agency's vault, there were photo albums. And there's a whole lot of photo albums, but what's interesting is there was only one photo album for the Kittitas Division of the Yakima Project. Just one little tiny album. It wasn't until recently that I discovered that Kittitas Reclamation District has within their vault downstairs 6 albums of all the photographs of the Kittitas Division. Likewise, I've been in the National Archives where Reclamation stores all their important documents and photographs and whatnot, and there's only one album of Kittitas Division photos in there too. Interestingly enough, that album contains different pictures than what's in this one and stuff that we're going to see tonight. So it's very fun. As a historian, I get to kind of research, I get to be detective. I don't have a brown fedora, but I get to be like one detective to figure out what's going on, where does this come from, where did these things go, and help preserve this for the future. Years ago, I remember working with a guy, and he says, oh, well, Boise, Idaho, that's the regional office for Reclamation. They have these photos, and Denver does. So I went, and some of those, they do not. So I'm really proud that KRD has been a good steward all of these decades. If you remember, you'll see how long it's been since we turned over one end to them, that they've had these photos under lock and key and safekeeping. And one of the things that is really unique about this collection is that some of these photographs were done in a time that captures life here in the valley in the 20s and 30s, before the Great Depression and after the Great Depression. And some of the pictures were done by Reclamation photographers. The agency had a series of photographers that they used all across the West and the 17 area states that Reclamation's in. But they also had engineers that took pictures. And so some of those photos within the collection here in Ellensburg are ones that the agency doesn't have anywhere else. They're ones that the photographers had taken and they had them produced and they just sat there. But the real great thing about this collection is that they have photo exposure cards. And we'll show these later as we go along here. These exposure cards I've never seen. In over 10 years of experience at the agency, I've never seen these exposure cards. And the great thing, exposure cards, they contain all kinds of neat information about this is so-and-so, this is their farm, and here's what I took the photograph at, and other stuff that's just missed. And we discuss this in the presentation. You'll see that some of the stuff that the agency has in their official list is very sanitized and very clean. Whereas the note cards are pretty detailed and got good information. But no scandals, just so you know, no scandals. And this one, a picture I picked because it's harvest time. This is in their collection. I've never seen this elsewhere. This is a picture of a display that the Reclamation District had done, I suspect here at the fair.
What geography is covered in this Kittitas Division?
You will learn. Here we go. Here we are. What a question. So here's the Yakima Project. As Sadie mentioned, I work for the United States Bureau of Reclamation here in the Columbia Cascades area office. And one of the parts I oversee is in the Yakima Project. So that's detailing an area that stretches all the way from the mountains, Cascades, way down to where the Columbia River and the Yakima River meet. So the Yakima Project was approved in 1905 and completed in 1958. So over 50 years to get it completed. And you can see the green areas in this map are all the Yakima Project lands that are served. So, and so the other stuff we see called out here are actually other private irrigation districts. So a little bit of history about the United States Reclamation Service. So it started in 1902 with the New Lands or Reclamation Act to reclaim the arid West. The Yakima Project was one of 20 approved projects in the United States Reclamation Service since it started reclamation projects in 1903. It was the 9th done in 1905. The 9th one started in 1905. The Yakima Project today irrigates 474,000 acres in the Yakima and Kittitas Valleys, which is the largest number of irrigated acres under one public or private organization in the Yakima Basin's 650,000 total irrigated acres. This is the largest reclamation project prior to the Columbia Basin Project in Washington State. And as I said, it's composed of 6 irrigation divisions: the Tieton, Sunnyside, Kittitas, Rosette, Kennewick, and the Storage Division, which is composed of 6 dams and reservoirs. And it uses the Yakima River as its conduit to deliver water all the way down through here. So before reclamation came, the United States government came in, irrigation was involved here in the Kittitas area. In 1890, there were 25,000 acres irrigated primarily around Ellensburg. These early systems were all private irrigation ditches owned by farmers who built them cooperatively, or for the Ellensburg Water Company ditch, or the West Side Irrigation Company. Those were private ventures. Nonetheless, irrigation continued to grow, and by 1900, the number of areas irrigated was now at 47,373. And as you get a picture here of the West Side ditch taken in 1929. Note the very large stacks of hay in the background. We don't see that anymore. We see those giant brown bales, but not this. The growth of irrigation continually necessitated larger and more engineered complex systems, as easy to irrigate areas had already been taken, while higher lands were still dry and dusty, covered with rabbit brush and sagebrush. This is the Badger Pocket in 1929. So the Kittitas Division was approved in 1926 as the 3rd irrigation division of the Yakima Project, which would consist of a 26.2 mile long main canal that branches into a 36 mile long north branch canal and a 14.2 mile long south branch canal to irrigate Kittitas County. Near the end of the north branch canal is the Whipple pumping plant, which pumps water up to irrigate Badger Pocket southeast of Kittitas. Construction was from 1926 to 1933. Today, it irrigates approximately 59,000 acres in the Kittitas Valley. So notice that irrigates more than what was here in 1900 with all the private companies. In 1934, Reclamation turned over operation and maintenance, O&M as we call it, of the Kittitas Division to Kittitas Reclamation District. Everyone knows KRD. You have some KRD folks here tonight. But Reclamation retained several reserved works, namely Eastern Diversion Dam, until August 5th, 1960, when KRD assumed O&M of the rest of the system. So these photographs were done, as I mentioned in the press release and some of the teasers that Sadie sent out, kind of document the construction of what this system was and how engineering was being used to tame the wilderness and how we're bringing water to desert arid lands. But also it took other photos. But for at the start of this, we'll at least look at what they've done here. So we talk about, we saw pictures of, man and horsepower. Here we see a man and a team of horses rolling a compacted embankment on the main canal here in 1928. And the interesting about the Kittitas Division, the Yakima Project, it's one of those as a transitional project because they still used a lot of horsepower. They had teams. Then they also had big machines. Look at the size of this giant Marion drag line and the size of this rock here in the man. How big and deep this cut is. So here this picture says excavating class 2 material, showing material after loosening with dynamite. They had to blow it out. Notice large pieces of right which are too large for the drag line to handle. And this is also taken in 1928, but that's just taken a couple months later. Here's another picture. This is in their collection. This is unique to the collection here in Ellensburg. I haven't found this picture anywhere else. It's a view right in Easton. You notice the houses. So I'd like to have that in your backyard. Excavating out the canal. And again, look at the size that bucket on the drag line and the man. And this was so popular, I noticed when they scanned this, it was put on a postcard. So people were very interested and proud and excited to see what was going on here. This says the dragline excavator at work, general view, Kittitas Main Canal, station number 36, Yakima Project work near Easton. Taken from station number 37, you can see he was 100 feet away, at upper cuts stake showing point of work done well, as well as machine and surrounding houses. So a lot of the Kittitas Division is very unique. A lot of the photos you will see in this collection, which we're not obviously all tonight, there's over 2,000, so I tried to see what I could do. Let's see what he gave me. But we're talking about unique features. Crossing Morrison Canyon, it's over 1,000 feet long. It's one of 2 riveted steel siphons in the main canal. It's the only one in the Yakima Project that was done like this. All the other divisions we talked about the Yakima Project don't have these steel siphons. There are also trapezoidal lined high wall bench flumes, half rock and half wall sections, flumes with half straight and angled sections, drop structures, earthen lined sections. No other Yakima Project division has such a variety of design used to get the water there. So that gives a little snippet of what we see in the collection of photos of the canal. Then we have things like this. Now, I like to have presentations that kind of interact with the audience. Anyone have an idea what this is? I see someone raising a hand in the back, but that's actually my oldest daughter, so she knows what it is. I'm sorry. So guys, I found something. What is this? Is this a Mad Hatter or something? What kind of unusual thing? I mean, they allowed smoking at work, so he's got his pipe. This is a picture of an apparatus for making tests of impermeability of concrete. Concrete discs, you see up here, are used as specimens for testing. This is the Ellensburg laboratory. It's taken in 1927. So they were very much, Reclamation was testing a lot of things, making sure that things would lie. They were on the cutting edge of a lot of these projects because these were higher engineered works. They were involving more technical, say, engineering and materials to bring the water to these elevations. What's this? A giant cage, huh? That's right, good job. So these are reinforcing cages for a 60-inch, which is 200-foot head pipe, concrete lock joint pipe plant here in the Kittitas Division. So Reclamation ended up having their own pipe plant. It was determined that there was so much pipe needed, you see the details here in a second, but there's over 50,000 linear feet of concrete pipe was required in this division of the Yakima Project. They wrote back in 1928 that many objectionable points involved in the purchase of commercially made precast concrete pipe, not the least of which is a matter of inspection to ensure that the pipe is of the grade specified and with the proper amount of reinforcement. The durability of lock joint pipe construction program on the Kittitas Division seems so apparent that steps should be taken at once to assemble all the necessary equipment for the manufacture of all pipe required for the project. So Reclamation went out and they bought, leased a section of land and bought an equipment, and it was on the remains of the Kittitas Valley Lumber Company sawmill and lumberyard site, adjacent to the Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul Pacific Railroad. This plant produced all the concrete pipe needed for the Kittitas Division to be installed by contractors. As I mentioned, produced 50,000 linear feet of pipe. Pipe varied in diameter from 18 inches to 72 inches, so I'm over 6 feet, so I can take it apart. Complex arrangement for construction, curing, and transportation of the pipe. So here we get, so they have two pictures I found. They couldn't have a panorama camera, so you got to piece it together. So we'll look at one at a time. So this first picture here, we see the general storehouse over here. You see the Milwaukee Road back here. And in here they have this thing called, I learned in my job to speak engineerese. So they called this fabric reinforcement. Anyone have any idea what that is? Rebar? There you go, yeah, rebar. So this is where they put all the rebar together. They bended it, they welded it, they tested it all in this part in here. And then they put them into these mandrels over here to build those round cages we first saw. From there, of course, you have the mixing plant, you have the siding from the Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul, and Pacific Railway. They dump the material, the concrete, the aggregate to make that, and then they have the pouring yard here. And then from there, it went on by an overhead crane as it went through the stages of the pouring process. And then they went to the curing shed, which is over here. And then when it was finished, then the pipe was stacked here for use. We see some more of those rebar cages here.
Where was this located?
Well, you know, that's a good question. Unfortunately, the document I found was missing the map. So it's either east or west of town somewhere. Let's see if I can that's as best I can tell you. They certainly had some room, and they rented land from another gentleman over here. It is interesting, you know. I remember here on the Safeway, I think it still has it, as I mentioned, or as City mentioned, I have a graduate to be here from Central, but they have the chain on the wall, the Ellensburg winds. Well, they still have that problem back in the 20s, because there's a discussion there that had to build this super high wall from the curing shed because it was too windy to get the concrete to cure without it. It's really quite an interesting story. There's a big, as I mentioned, a big document portion of the map about the construction of that and the people they hired and whatnot. That's might be another idea for a talk later on. So they took all that pipe, we see all about that pipe there. The pipe was used for culverts, a lock joint pipe, and they put it in places like this. This is the North Branch Canal siphon, the Johnson Creek siphon today. It's going underneath the Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul, and Pacific Railroad. And they stamped every piece of these pipes with the date, where it was supposed to be located. I found we were easily identifiable. So one of the real gems I found, and there's a lot of gems in this collection, is this. Anyone have an idea where this is? Because I will tell you, this is a glass plate negative. It was in a box. It was written on a United States Reclamation Service, which in 1923, the United States Reclamation Service became the Bureau of Reclamation. But I had no identifier of location or date.
Sort of near where the train, the rail yard used to be.
Yeah, multiple tracks. We have a locomotive here. This is another Pacific Railway locomotive. If you look at the negative real close, you can get the number off of it. So we think it's up in Kittitas Valley, right? Okay. And so this is kind of my job as historian. I get to get these things from, well, where is this? I know where it is, but where does this begin? Okay. So here's another picture, farther up the railroad track. Okay. So we know that one train was the Northern Pacific Railway line. Now we see another railway line here. See a new one here. It says station 1 mile. We have these things here, which look like there's something designed to help push logs off the railroad track into the water. This track here looks awfully new. This doesn't look as new as this one. Mind you, Northern Pacific Railway came through here in 1884. Completed the line in 1885. Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul, and Pacific came through later. So this might be the Milwaukee Road. Any ideas yet? Another picture. No, it's up county. So here we see the railroad line here. Yeah. We see something over here. We know it's Upper County. Look at all the timber. That's down by Badger Pocket. Farther north. Farther west, thank you. Farther west. Yeah, not Roslyn, that's closer. Okay, so here's another picture. This is looking over, looking downstream. I'm a big railroad buff. I've been since I was 5, so I could figure out that this was a Z1 locomotive, series Melee, on the right. That was built in 1910, so I know this picture has been taken after 1910. Now, I know we have a resident geologist here in the crowd. Do you have any idea what this is? Now, I found another picture. Here's another picture. This is a picture showing a crib dam used by Ellensburg County to hold back water when the logs dumped on the siding up here. So there were 8 pictures in this set. There was a broken one. Some didn't come out very good. They were sitting around. I am pretty sure, I'll see if the KRD folks tell me that this is Easton. And this is the Yakima River. And there's the bridge. There's a bridge there today, not that bridge. It's a flat truss bridge. Because there's a little town you see over here. Here's North Pacific Railway. And then the Milwaukee Road came through here. That's the Milwaukee Road line, but this is before it got electrified in 1917-20. And there's a little notch here. That's what we're looking at, this notch. You see, this has been used to hold back water. I think this is where Easton Dam is today. Because in 1909, Reclamation went out and they looked and did a survey of the Kittitas Division Yakima Project. Now, mind you, it wasn't built until 17 years later. They went out and they surveyed this, but we know from this photo, this can be taken in 1909. This has to be taken after 1910. But that's what I think this is.
The survey would have the dam.
Will we with a dam location? Yeah.
But I mean, the crib dam would have been something that the survey would have been taken note of.
Certainly, yes. And I've never seen those notes. That would be something definitely to find in the city. Because I didn't know that there was a dam there already, and somebody was, the Cascade Lumber Company, or somebody was using that to dump logs off on this branch, this spur you see here, and then wrapped it down the Yakima River. We know they did that in the Tiana way, but somebody was doing that here. So history, mystery. Also within the collection, there are these great pictures that I took scans of. These are nitrate negatives, which, if you know what nitrate negatives are, they're highly flammable. So unlike the glass plate negatives, which are perfectly fine, these are highly flammable. So I scanned these for KRD and exposed them properly. This was a series taken, I think, in 1934 by KRD for some sort of presentation. I'm not sure which, they're all labeled. These again are not in Reclamation's files, they're not in any sort of inventory. It's anything history, mystery. Anyone have an idea of what kind of car that is?
It's like a drug runner, or a beer runner.
I think it's a Pontiac. But in my field, that's how you can have date photos if you know your cars, your clothing styles, things like that.
What year is it, do you know?
It doesn't say, because the caption didn't say the year. In one of the series of photos, there's 8 of them, it does say crop of 1934, so I suspect it's 34. It looks like the license plate on this, because I scanned this at real high resolution, I can see it as something 4 on there, so I think it, and I know that the manager KRD is here, but here, and I think that was a KRD manager's car.
I want it.
I know you can say that.
You better be taking care of that.
So the caption says, this is a line section of the main canal, about 4 miles below Easton. At the time, the canal was carrying approximately 987 feet. This is a peak of the season and occurred during the first days of July. So here's a neat photo. This was taken, this is photo number 2. This is looking upstream at the unlined section of the main canal. What that's referring to for those who are familiar with engineering terms for irrigation systems. That means it's just dirt on the side. It's just an embankment. Line canal has concrete on the side of the material. This photograph was taken in the Warner-Roseburg tract just below, and forgive me if I got this right, P-O-H-P-O Point?
Yeah.
P-O Point, okay. So I thought this was kind of neat because it shows, homestead there, and what the valley looked like there. And so this presentation, this was their 1934 version of what I'm doing today. I teased Urban, the manager, caregiver, about this was being a way for you to get some more money, because this was showing the construction work that they were having to do. By 1934, we turned O&M over to KRD, and KRD was very proud of this. This is a little Austin Badger, a little crawler tractor of sorts. They had a scoop, I guess, no, it's not a steam shovel, but it was gasoline-powered shovel. This one says, shows the Austin Badger who excavating through the center of the bank of the North Branch Canal for the purpose of puddling the leakage. Through some of this heavy gravel, we found it impossible to stop the leakage in any other way, and with this hoe, we excavated this channel entirely through the bank and to the hard pan below the bottom of the canal, and puddled in good material in place of the gravel. So they're doing all this work, but notice the canal is still full of water. So I wish I knew what the story was, but there must have been some bad leak. They had to go right out in the irrigation season with the canal full of water and try to find out where this leak was coming from. So not only are there construction photos of the Kittitas Division Yakima Project, there's also construction photos of other places. Anyone recognize where this is? Yes. Here we are. They are in 1932 paving the road in the canyon. At that time it was called the Inland Empire Highway. And there were 4 of these in the collection, and I knew the individual at the Department of Transportation, now retired, but I asked him, and they've never seen it. The DOT's never seen it. This shows paving is 20 feet wide and follows the Yakima River. Paving crew and equipment have a daily output of approximately 800 cubic yards, and they have about 1,100 lineal feet per 8-hour shift. The aggregates delivered in trucks, 5 batches to a load, and batching and sand and gravel plant done by weight. No. There's some great photos of downtown Ellensburg. Here we see 3rd Avenue. And not very often did I give a presentation and have a picture of where we're at, right here. And this is in 1929. Notice the stop sign there.
They're working in the New York Cafe now.
Yeah.
Do they have this picture somewhere?
They do. I found this in this book here. It was there, and I shared that with Sadie last year. And you know, honestly enough, of all the photographs they took and all the different things that you'll see, there's over 2,000. This is the only downtown business district photo in there of Ellensburg. Interesting enough, Sadie said that's the only one they've ever seen someone looking east instead of west. So not only did they photograph, as I mentioned, downtowns and other things, they also photographed schools. Schools are very important. So in the community, here's the old Ellensburg High School, 1923. And then they would go back and they would photograph when things changed. Here's the middle school, and here's the high school. This is in 1930. But they also photographed other things. This is the little Peel Point School in 1929. And here is the bus terminal, the Washington Motor Coach System. Long since precursor to the Greyhound here in town in 1930. And a lot of different pictures. I just tried to do a selection for tonight. Here's another one of the Cooperative Creamery, 1923. And so in 23, this before the project ever started, they were up here doing photography of things going on in the valley and whatnot. And then we get into different photos. Anyone have any idea where this is at?
That's the Elks building.
Yeah. There's the Elks. This is the Elks building here. This building's gone. So this shows the Cooperative Weather Bureau Station in Kittitas County Courthouse grounds, looking southeast towards the corner of 5th and Main Street. Unfortunately, they don't tell us who this guy is. But somebody knew back in the day in 1929. As I mentioned, the really gem of this collection are these exposure cards. So they tell me who took the picture. A. Whitmore took the picture. On the date, this is 10/16/1929. What the exposure was light, bright sun, medium poor. What the f-stop was, the exposure setting. There's a temporary number, and there's the official number, Yakima 2256. Reclamation was very good in numbering all their official photographs. And then it has the subject. It says Cooperative Weather Bureau Station at Kittitas County Courthouse grounds. This is literally northwest across grounds.
Just before the Depression.
Yeah. I thought this was interesting because growing up here, I never knew that the courthouse was like this here.
Yeah.
That's all long known. And then this, I think, I don't know what this was. The storage.
Mary's Palmer Auto Garage.
Okay.
That was torn down to build Baltus gas station and currently Sedona Sun. Sedona's the other tanning salon.
Thank you. So besides the county courthouse in the background and the weather station and things, there are pictures of the fair. Kittitas County Fair. This is a great picture taken in 1923, and by the way, we're doing this in widescreen for everyone's time. This is a widescreen production. Here we see the Children's Day. So we see all the kids lined up here.
Yes.
Great pictures. You can get a little one in a carriage over here. And this was taken on, some of them they're dated exactly the date, this is just the month, it's September of 1923. You know, it's usually the first weekend of September. So, and then here's another picture. This is taken in 1926. This is Rodeo Field. And here's another one. This is one of the nitrate ones I found. This is a demonstration of irrigation sprinkler systems with Gould's pumps and Pomona pumps from the Ellensburg Iron Works. Here at the Kittitas County Fairgrounds. I suspect it's 1930s. But I know enough. This is Craig's Hill. No houses. Yeah. So as I mentioned, houses. Reclamation took pictures of housing stock also, as part of the ways document was there, and also somewhat for publicity purposes, actually a lot of publicity, to show the importance and the bounty and what would happen with irrigation and what communities were like. And so this one here is in pictures. It says farm home on the Kittitas Division. I found it interesting that this picture was so popular, they took more than one photograph of it over time. Here's another one, and here's another one. And they all said farm home, except this top one said home of P.E. Wilson, Woodlawn Farm. I don't know if that's still there. Okay. That's what these create. Stuff still here in the back. But you know, it's interesting to see that they not only took pictures of high style architecture or the upper class, they also had lower class. This was new farm home on the Kittitas Division. That's a new home. And this is an area that had just been broken raw land in the foreground. And this was done in 1930, so this would be on ground from the Kittitas Division Yakima Project. The irrigates, somewhere out there, in the section that they irrigated, it was just raw sagebrush. Definitely a very humble abode. Here's another one. So this one is Lou Richards. Richards here, but this is Lou Richards' farm residence. And I noted it's showing a well-kept lawn and gardens, of which there are many in this region. This is 1833. So eyebrow is on there. Here's another one. This is a farm home of Chris. Forgive me if I pronounce his name correctly. Idle or Idle? It's E-I-D-A-L. This is Idle, I think. It's farm home. Here's another one. But this one just says Farm Home Kittitas Division. So this one doesn't identify as who it is. I thought this one's always interesting because you get the human element. You see these two little boys here. And if you look at this closer, they're looking at the camera like, who are you? What are you doing taking a picture of our house? This is taken in 1929. And interesting enough, as we mentioned, we saw this other kind of almost craftsman bungalow style house of Mr. Idle's, but this is buildings on the farm of Chris Idle. And it's interesting is we don't see that house in the earlier picture. You see this much older home. It's kind of a Victorian style house. Big barn, lots of outbuildings. taken in 1932. And the other picture was taken the same year, so maybe he had two houses. Or a brother, yeah, or this was the in-laws' house. Here is the Olson farm home in 1929. And then we see all kinds of different types of agriculture. I was very amazed when I looked at this collection to see the different varieties and things. I always think of Ellensburg, Timothy Hay. This is Timothy Hay country. Okay? Big time. But before that, there were lots of other things that were grown. Of course, we have, these are going to talk about the animals. First, we have a Holstein dairy herd on the firm of A.E. Larson. And those of you who may recognize the name or not, that's the gentleman who built the Larson building in Yakima. So he invested in the Kittitas Valley too, because he's shown here twice. His daughters are shown in the picture. We also had Jersey cows. We didn't have Holsteins. Here's a Jersey dairy herd owned by Joe Torney, taken in July 9th of 1929. And we got chickens. Here's chickens. White Leghorns on Chicken Farm of J.H. Petrie, I believe is the name. It's P-E-T-R-I-E. Here's another picture. More chickens. These are White Leghorns on the farm of J.H. See if I got it right. Wemmel, W-E-L-M-E-L. And this is always interesting to me as a historian. I see things. Just don't look at what the subject matter is, but also what's behind it. The school. Unfortunately, I don't know where, but it's got to be somewhere here in the valley. But it's definitely not one that's still extant. And of course, we still have cattle here. Here's Bull Angus beef cattle being brought in from Summer Range in 1933. This is feeding Chester white pigs. Who's Zoe? Pig the slop. Okay. 1929. This was on July 11th.
That's out of Thorpe.
Okay. Outside of Thorpe.
Hutchinson.
Outside of Thorpe, you think? It looks like we see the railroad tracks here.
That'd be the Northern Pacific on that side.
Yeah. Right. And you can see it's not labeled, so we don't know who the gentleman was or what. But interesting photo of all ready to get their swap.
It's like granite.
So as I mentioned, the importance of these exposure cards. You know, I know that sheep one time were a big thing here in the Kittitas Valley. And it's really shown in this, you know, these cards show the information taken on September 11th, 1933. It says, excellent fall pasture attracts thousands of sheep to the valley. Here at Thorpe, Washington. It says, Coffin Brothers on Moorhead Place, Frederickson Buildings in background. Quite a bit of detail. Which is very interesting because the official reclamation log that I found, our number log that's here, of the photo, which was not involved in this collection that we have, all it says is, excellent fall pasture attracts thousands of sheep to the valley each fall. The third crop of alfalfa does not mature and is pastured, and nothing else. It doesn't say anything else about Coffin Brothers, which were big sheep folks. It doesn't say anything more about the Moorhead Place or the Frederickson Buildings in the background. But it's a great picture. You can see the drover there, and the dogs, all the sheep. I don't know, and maybe you guys know where the Frederickson Place is. Maybe it's still there. Here's another picture. These are Hampshire sheep on the Whipple farm.
Yes, out by Bordale.
Yeah. And this is taken on May 26, 1932. I thought interesting that the photographers had a problem with the name Whipple. Some call it W-H-I-P-P-E-L, and some call it W-I-P-P-E-L. Here's another picture. So here's sheep on the way from the summer range, the national forest, to fall pasture in the Kittitas Valley, thence to winter quarters and market. And that's the official caption that Reclamation has, but these, as I mentioned on those exposure cards, have their own information and additional notations. And so it said, sheep on the way to market and winter quarters in the mountain pasture near Thorpe, Washington. So it's near Thorpe. And it says it's Saunders sheep. And I want you to guess how many are in this band. Keep going. Sheep was a big thing here. There are 2,200 sheep in this band. That's a lot of sheep. So we're talking about the animal husbandry of the area, and we're talking about some of the crops grown. So here we see the raking sagebrush in the Badger Pocket area. This is on July 9th, 1929. Here they are, the next picture. Plowing sagebrush land, the 3-gang plow and 8 horses. Now, remember, this is during the Depression we talked about. This project started before the Depression and through the Depression. What year do you think this picture was taken? Now, mind you, the one with the tractor was taken in 1929. Close, 1932. So, using older technology, maybe because of Depression, maybe that's all they had. A nice team of horses. A big team. So what's this thing? Yeah. Look at those big old iron wheels, spikes. This is planting potatoes with 2-row planter on Tom Hamilton's farm. See all the potatoes. So it appears that at that time, Ellensburg grew lots of potatoes. You were getting potatoes on the Kittitas Division in 1929. This is in part of the nitrogen negatives. I believe this is carrot seed of carrots that are going to be growing. Seeds part here. I also found a note. There are some pictures that are missing in the albums, but I did find one for the Needham Ranch off the South Branch Canal. They were raising cucumbers. Here's corn, showing a field of sweet corn at the time of harvest. This field belongs to Guy Birchland. It's M-U-R-C-H-L-A-N-D. And while the field is below the Cascade Canal, which is one of the private canals, it is a small portion of the property within the Highline District. That was one of the names they called the Kittitas Division. It's the Highline, it's higher on the canals than anybody else in the valley.
My wife's great-grandfather was working in a restaurant in Seattle, and his grandfather was born in 1911. And he told us that they used to get their potatoes from the Kittitas Valley.
Cool. There we go. This cornfield here says average 4 tons per acre. So in the collection, there's more pictures of individual farms, and they named these ones. This is Captain L.B. Davies, A.L.B. Davies. This is his farm. He's very proud. He has a picture on it's on the North Branch Canal. It's an oat field in the Wilson Creek area. This is taken on July 7, 1932. Here's the Bach farm. This is L.A. Bach on the left and his son Leon on the right in his oat field. The Badger Pocket area near Kittitas. Yeah, it's on a little tall. You notice that. I'm a tall person. I come from tall lineage on my mother's side and my dad's side. But I know that there wasn't a lot of short people back in the 30s, very heights like today. So yeah, definitely a very tall field of oats on August 5th, 1932. Here's a picture of Elson Mundy in his wheat field. Look how tall that wheat is. Way up to here. Badger Pocket area near Kittitas. At the same time, August 5th, 1932. So this is really showcasing the bounty of what the project had done by the end of 32. And there's this picture. I found this one, and this is oats, South Branch Town near Thorpe, Washington. I saw something in the background. Notice, there's a head. Look how tall those oats are.
Maybe it's a real short man.
Well, it could be. Or it could be a midget, but I don't know. This is taken on July 14th, 1933. And this picture is not in any of the reclamation inventories or the data list. When I mentioned when it came that there was an inventory of photos from 1897 to 1978. It's not in there. This is called, and forgive me if I got this wrong, the Koriski Farm. So this is John Koriski and his field of carrots. First crop after clearing the land, Badger Pocket area, Kittitas Division, August 5th, 1932. Carrots. Carrots. Who's carrots? This is Arthur Penterson in his potato field. This is his first crop. How about having that for your first crop of potatoes? Look at that. In the Badger Pocket area, it's taken again August 5th, 1932. Shows the bounty brought forth by irrigation here in the valley.
Oh.
So here's another one. Here's Kariski's pea field. This is Walter Kariski in the picture at Badger Pocket area near Kittitas. We've got lots of information here from our exposure card. Additionally, I found something different in the reclamation. It was much more clean, but it said these are perfection peas raised for seed, and the yield was 70 bushels per acre. 70 bushels. That was, we got 33. Picture of that pea field. Look at that. Far as you can see. Now you're pitting, that's a dog. So here's a large field of cabbage. Did you know the Kittitas Valley grew cabbage? Look at that. Large field of cabbage on the west side near Ellensburg, and I think it's the Barnes farm. It's written on their Barnes. So I speculate that's what that is. And that's some great information again from that exposure card, because the reclamation's notation in the photo log just says a field of cabbage. It doesn't tell you that it's cabbage on the west side, and it was potentially the Barnes farm. Anyone have any idea what those are? Sugar beets. That's right. You know they do sugar beets here too. How about some onions? Field of onions, Badger Pocket area near Kittitas, Washington. John Koweski farm. The same thing, the reclamation notation just says onion grows on project. That's why those exposure cards are so valuable. It's a great find. So now that we see the cow husbandry, we see the use of agriculture, the changing of the land, food production, but we also see this.
Yeah.
And this was really interesting because I've never seen these in any other of the projects that I oversee as my job. I found a picture of this there showing horses. And these are registered Belgian stallions on the Luther Harrell farm. Anyone know where this barn is?
Yeah, on the Thorpe Highway,
Okay.
almost in the Thorpe.
Okay, there you go.
It's still Centerview Farm.
Oh, cool. Great.
Dykes on
Great. So it says Harold Jupiter Curley is 3 years old, first in class in Yakima Fair, so that's the state fair in Yakima. And, this was 1933, by then the state had dropped in the fair, just the Yakima Fair. It weighed 2,190 pounds, and Harold Jupiter Independence, is 2 years old, weighs 2,200 pounds. And I thought, until I found this and then read through what the notes were, this is the trainer. This is R.C. Evans. I thought maybe this might have been Luther, but it's not. It's the trainer. And also I found another photograph. So they took a series of photographs. We're going to see some here, but not all of them for time's sake. It says that Independence was a champion at the Mid-State Yakima Fair in 1933 and junior champion in Portland in 1932. So here's Jupiter, 1-year-old filly born June 2nd, 1932. This photograph is taken on August 6th, 1933. This is weight 1,350, and Harold's Jupiter Susan, I think on the right, 1 year old, July 6th, 1933, weight 1,310 pounds. So again, we see R.C. Evans there. There's another big one. This is a Harold's Jupiter Pride, 5-year-old mare, thoroughbred Belgian Grand Champion. Yakima Mid-State Fair 1933, weighed 2,180 pounds. That's a big horse. Another horse who was photographed was Darlene, a champion at Portland 1930, 1931, 1932, 3-year-old, 2,300 pounds Belgian horse. Luther had quite a reputation, and, you know, was sought after for what he did for horse breeding. So here we see, here's the A.C. Cressy farm. It says cutting second crop of alfalfa on the A.C. Cressy farm, Badger Pocket area, August 15th, 1932. Another note, I said this place was seeded about a year ago. 1 year. We have binding wheat here on the O.S. Johnson farm, Badger Pocket area. It's August 5th, 1932. I think August 5th, 1932, they went around and did a whole bunch of photography. Here's a baler outfit cutting baling straw. Baled straw is sold to poultrymen on the coast, which being a native Washingtonian, and we always call the coast Seattle.
Yeah.
People say, well, what do you mean? It's not opium or Aberdeen, but no, we call it coast. See, that's what I'm referring to. Here they are hanging on the Kittitas Division. And you can see the, and forgive me, I forgot the term. My father actually was talking about this. There's a term for this type of break that throw the hay up into this big pile. And you see that back here in this picture taken in 1934. Looking into the Badger Pocket area from the Percy Wilson Ranch. This view is taken to show a hay crop in this section. If you remember, this land 3 years ago was a sagebrush. All this, but look at the size of the hay bales in proportion to this barn. So here's a Walter and Leo Koriski digging their potatoes. Badger Pocket area near Kittitas. This is on October 18th, 1932. Take it bigger.
Yes.
Here's the Harrell Ranch. Look at the spuds you could grow in the Kittitas Valley. Harvesting potatoes on the T.A. Harrell Ranch, 2 miles south of Kittitas, Washington. Look at the size of those potatoes. Look at the shell. Look how big they are. Look at the shell. This land is irrigated from the Cascade Canal, but part of that holding lies above and will be irrigated from the North Branch Canal. This is taken on October 21st, 1930. I thought it's interesting because, you know, these pictures showcase life and you know, people are proud of what they've done and what they do. At the same time, sometimes the people may not realize what's really going on, because the back of the photo it says, a pit of field-run potatoes. Due to mild climate, a little straw and earth is protection enough for the winter. You know, that's not true. Winters here aren't like North Dakota, but they're still not super warm. So here's the J. Koreski farm. Anyone have any idea what they're doing here?
Making spuds, do you?
Ah,
Well, they're bees,
someone's
making
right. It's a potato digger, but they're digging carrots. Those are some big carrots. Some apples. So we have sorting apples in the F.A. Kern packing plant. This is a great picture of all the ladies sorting apples. Thumb and fruit, as they used to say. And you've got the apple boxes in back. Put apples in. The kid up here. The lights hanging down. Anyone know who F.A. Kern was? Yes. He was the first manager of the Kittitas Reclamation District. So I thought it was interesting. This is a picture of his packing operation. There's another picture in the collection that shows his new house, kind of that same style, kind of a craftsman style home out there. So he actually bought land in Badger Pocket. In 1929, there were 92,136 apple-bearing trees in Kittitas County. That's a lot. It's a lot of apple trees. As Sadie mentioned, I'm a vintage fruit label collector. I've never ever found a label from the Kittitas Valley. You know, Washington, Omak, Okanagan, Spokane, Walla Walla, Daisy. But at the same time, 92,136 apple-bearing trees sounds like a lot, but that same year in 1929, Yakima County, to the south of us here, had 1,763,981 trees. And this is the Simmons Garden. How about that? Look at that. This is Mrs. M.T. Simmons and her daughter Ruby. So here's Mrs. Simmons, there's Ruby. This is their garden. What's interesting, in the reclamation caption, that's all it says. It says taken on August 5th, 1952. But then on the little exposure card, it says near Thrall, Washington. So this is Thrall. Great. And it says not highline, so not Kittitas Division, but showcases a remarkable variety and growth. Imagine you having that for your garden. Look at all that. You know, this is the midst of the Depression by now. And that's a lot of money. That's a lot of years worth of produce. They can harvest.
Paid that.
So I thought I'd finish out tonight's presentation with the last slide here, which I thought was very apropos. It says October on the Kittitas. This is taken October 1st, 1913. So she's all the pumpkins and going stalks. Anyone have any questions?
It's like a typical Ellensburg tree there.
Yeah.
Seeing all these pictures of the farmers showing off their crops, kind of gives a whole new meaning to the phrase that the man was outstanding in his field.
So, yes, they were standing in their field. They were proud of what they did. And happy to show it. And certainly, I don't know if any of these names ring a bell with anybody, as some of those families are still around. Certainly feel free to talk to them afterwards, or if there's still ones that extend in the community. I know sometimes people would come in and they would try to develop the land and have a lot of good make it. It's great to know that this collection survived and it has a lot of good information about some of the people in their fields.
It's a great set of photos. Are there more of this, and is it, this is representative of the range of things that are in the photo?
Correct, yeah, there's over 2,000 photos. Wow. There's a lot, yeah, it's hard for you to pick and choose. I know we have a certain amount of time, and so we're gonna get everyone to get a different feel for things. But yeah, there's a lot more.
Are they scanned? Have they been scanned? Are they online or?
They're in the process of that. The copies are made here to see. These, I was ahead of doing that, but I wanted to pull all this. And it was hard to choose because there's just so many great pictures and neat stories. One I have, Kevin Messenger, Kevin is not here tonight. Folks at KRD, but I showed a picture of him. I thought it was very interesting. It showed them out on the crew in 1933. They're out spraying weeds. It shows them in the weed truck and they're out spraying weeds along the canal. It says, fuel oil works great. Yeah, so that was the technology today. So it's very interesting to see what their pictures were shown and how they were doing things. Anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure.
Does anybody know where they made the bricks here in town?
There was some made up on Craig's Hill. There was a brickyard there. There was a brickyard on Brickmill Road. And there was a brickyard south of town. And according to legend, there was one also east of town, but we've not found, or west of town, but we've not found the exact location on any map.
And just a little research I did recently on working on master registration nomination on the building, composed of 950,000 bricks. I read and found a lot of them, communities would have a local brickyard, but it was very expensive to ship bricks.
Craig had his particularly used to help rebuild Ellensburg after the Great Fire. So that was up on the hill and made a number of the buildings.
Down in Yakima Valley, there was Granger Brick Products. They were a huge producer for almost 60 years. And the building that I'm doing the aspiration nomination on in Freya, they had bricks from that. So that was built in 1950 to 51, so it wasn't as expensive to ship bricks all the way from Granger to Freya.
Have you cross-referenced any of those names of some of the farmers with government land office maps?
I haven't, but I think that would be a lot of fun.
Because they're oftentimes written where the property is.
Yeah, because Sadie and I look at one from Kern, and I showed where the picture was of this place out in Badger Pocket. It looks like the one with a small little house.
Yeah.
Just bare, and you couldn't see anything, and they've taken off the sagebrush. And maybe we've got to find out where that was located. But yeah, it's a lot of things. I I would love to be able to do some research on Brackenfield, but I can share it with others, like see, you guys know historic history. You guys know where some of those places are at, if someone's near Thorpe or Thrall, or what part of the valley it's in. But it's really interesting to see, especially Badger Pocket, how they change things with the water conservation, how important that is, and how it looks different than anything today. We don't think all the work that KRD does and provides water for this valley and how green and lush it is, how it would be different if we didn't have that. Any other questions? Oh, well, I'm trying to do different things, but I haven't thought about that. That would be great. I mean, that would be fun to do. So much of the things that I've been able to research and touch, and I'm blessed to have the job that I have. I get to deal with things like this, not in every aspect of my job, but certainly I've unearthed a lot of stuff. And at my age, I've become the expert for history in the area, which I always can know more. I'm not the expert, but I've been able to research a lot of things and to kind of disseminate and locally and put things together. I'd love to get the copy of the ones that the National Archives put in here too, because there's some street scenes of a husband and wife member here in Ellensburg by their house, and I see who they are. And so there's other stuff that would be about the community. But a lot of that stuff was sent off to National Archives, which is great. It's for safekeeping. But if you want to go see it, you've got to go to Bloomfield, Colorado. So that makes it a lot harder. Or there's another collection in College Park, Maryland. So you can fly all the way across the country. And in that collection, I have the inventory here. These are all the pictures taken in the Yakima Project from 1902 to 1930, actually even before, so some in the 1890s. Unfortunately, though, this collection may not have everything that's in this. This is an inventory that was done back in the day. When I talked to Chris, he said, well, some of the stuff you may have, so that's why this collection is so valuable that KRD has, because it's here, we can access it. Any other questions?
I'll ask you.
Lady in the back.
Yes, was there photographs of the Rosa district? We know not in yours, but I just wondered when you found them, if there was any of the Rosa.
In this collection here is all Kittitas Division.
Okay.
There are some pictures of the reservoirs up in the mountains, like Kittitas and Kittitas and Cleo. But we do have Rosa Division photographs in the office. I work at that, quite extensive. There's over 5,000 photographs of the Rosa Division.
Wow.
Promoted that really extensively, and they really promoted the people who got land and talk about them. Showed this one guy. He's a new farmer, and it shows him bathing in the irrigation water. He had a small little shack like this one we see, and so that was his water source. But really, that one, my mom is here, and she grew up in Sunnyside, and see that area now, it's just totally different. You wouldn't think it what it looked like on the Rosa, but it's very, very rough, very sagebrush, not much there. Different, it's just shrub steppe habitat, which is its own habitat, but definitely different environments. And a lot of those Rosa pictures show people living in places like this. And the Rosa Division, unlike, I haven't found for sure on the Kittitas Division, the Rosa Division promoted, gave veterans preference for being able to purchase land. So I should clarify, why are we talking about all this land and how does the government own it? Well, Reclamation came in 1902. They realized that prior to that time, private irrigation companies or carry act projects, there was land speculation because this land isn't worth a whole lot. But if you put water on it, it's worth a whole lot more. For the master's thesis, I talked about Orchard Park in Yakima, where you could buy 160 acres for a couple dollars over 100 years ago, but then you could turn around and sell those 10-acre lots off for $10 to $20 each. And if you're really fishing what that is and how much that costs. So it was very much something they wanted to prevent was speculation. And so the government would come in and they say, okay, we're going to do this project, we're going to take all the land and we're going to hold it and we're going to slowly give it out to everyone at the same amount of money. So I don't sell it to you for $20 an acre and sell it to you for $3 an acre and the other person for $100 an acre. It's all the same price. And as you saw in veterans' preference, they let veterans be the first to choose that. There's some great pictures in the Rosa Division files, as you mentioned, of the kids at Parker Field in Yakima. There's a little girl and she's pulling out the names showing a little bingo type machine, and they're drawing the names right on the chalkboard of who are the people that, you know, we get the first allotment of land off of those. And some of those are still around in those areas. That's been a long time. But yeah, each division, Yakima Project, has its own set of photos. And each, as I mentioned in the teaser for this show, Reclamation had different photographers, and each project had its own set. Now, mind you, there were ones that still went around the country, like in Okanagan Project up in Homeland or Central Washington. They had Walter J. Lubkin. He was a very famous reclamation photographer for almost 15 years, did beautiful pictures. But the interesting thing about that is that in that area, one day they had him, and they had Christian Anderson do some photography. He was one of the engineers. They also had a gentleman by the name of Frank Matsura. Frank Matsura was a Japanese American. He was from Japan. He immigrated. And he took a whole lot of photographs of the Okanagan Project. The Okanagan Project was built much earlier than the Kittitas. It was built in 1905 to 1916. And that, to me, is also very interesting, because not only is it great pictures and great glass plate negatives and what he did, it's also interesting that he was hired to take pictures of that. When a little secret people don't realize is from 1902 to 1943, NASA's Reclamation Service said no one of Mongolian descent shall be employed in construction or use of products. So they were excluded, but it's interesting that Frank Mansur wasn't. He was still right in Okanagan. He had his own photo studio. He was employed by the service to do that. So somebody back in the day looked the other way and hired the best photographers for the job.
In that picture, there's a drag line, probably digging a canal. That's one horizon on the left.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of these pictures are very clear quality, so you can see that he's not working on that there. And some of the pictures I used, because I knew they were there, for prior presentation here about the Yakima pressure tunnel, where we showed them blasting the area around the Belgian pocket. There was some real hard condition. They had to blast a giant truck, blocks of dirt the size of half of this room. So pictures of them blowing all that stuff up. There's a lot of details. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.